Hello and welcome to LandryFootball.com, and you are watching Destination Draft Day. I'm Michael Rockman, the only host here today. Nick decided to bail on us, Brian decided to bail on us, and any other co-hosts were not able to make the appearance. So today it is a solo mission, and you know what? We're going to carry it through. So we got a lot to talk about today. We are going to mostly be talking about the Eagles and Detroit Lions blueprints for mock off season. We got plenty of content to get into. First and foremost, though, I just want to say thank you to Landry Football for the opportunity that they give us to present a show twice a week. And I also want to say thank you to Bonus Seeker for all the opportunities they've given the show as well. So, like I said, we are diving immediately into the Philadelphia Eagles and their mock off season. One thing that we know about the Eagles is how chaotic their season was. We saw it over the course of the entire regular season where they had to decide between Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts. And there were sides of the locker room that both were in favor of Carson Wentz and in favor of Jalen Hurts. And there were people that were, kind of in the middle. And this locker room was created in terms of team chemistry into a total hellhole. So what happens from this is trying to create a lot of unity in that. And I think Sirianni should be a good hire in that regard. I'm not sure that he's going to succeed. I think the opportunity at success is very limited because of that. But I do think that with this roster, there's still enough talent to where the Eagles could find success. So we're looking at what they have on this roster. Obviously there's pieces that they could acquire by trading Carson Wentz, trading Zach Ertz, restructuring Brandon Graham, and they can create some cap space. But at this current moment, the Eagles are definitely in for a hectic season. Hopefully, though, by establishing who your starting QB is, getting some new blood in there, getting some young pieces, rearranging some of the money a little bit just to offset the terrible debt you're in right now, you can potentially have a successful offseason and a good first step to what is going to be at least a minor rebuild in Philadelphia. So with that being said, we're going to dive right into the mock draft for the team. We're looking at what the Eagles could do. They picked number 6 in the first round. And with that first pick, we're going to go with Ja'Marr Chase. I understand that a lot of people maybe don't agree with the rankings, and I'm not even sure that Ja'Marr Chase is wide receiver 1 for me. I'd say probably Jalen Waddle is. But I think in terms of what the Eagles already have on roster, Ja'Marr Chase fits in perfectly. You see this guy had a absolutely dominant 2019. He's a great, valuable receiver that is dependent, makes plays, and even though he maybe doesn't offer the athletic upside of your typical wide receiver 1, there's definitely a way that Chase wins consistently. And by doing that, you are bringing in a great weapon for your young QB you're hoping he pans out, because while Jalen Hurts had some very great performances in that first game or those first starts of the season, there were definitely some issues shown as well. I mean, I'm not going to say Doug Peterson was right in the move, but Doug Peterson even felt the need to go to Nate Sudfeld in that season finale. So there's definitely some issues that Hurts will have to work through. And I think bringing in a dependable receiver like Ja'Marr Chase is absolutely the way that you go about that. And with that next pick, it's more of the same. We get Sam Cosmi at that left tackle spot. I don't trust in Dillard. I don't trust in, Jason Peters coming back. I think he's retiring. So you got to get a guy for the offensive line. I think there's talent on this offensive line. I think when healthy, this offensive line is one of the better units in the NFL. But right now, with what they have at left tackle, I have a lot of question marks. I think it's time to go for a offensive tackle. And based on my rankings, I assume Cosmi is going to be one of the better options available. Him, someone like Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State could be another option. But ultimately, though, you want to fulfill this offensive line. I understand that, there's older pieces like Brandon Brooks, Jason Kelsey, probably aren't here for a long time. But I think you look at these guys, and they're definitely going to be coming back. They're definitely going to give you at least 1, 2, 3 more years. I think Kelsey's the one that's kind of hinted at retirement recently, and I know that Nate Herbig could potentially fill in at guard while Ciamalo moves over to center. So if I'm the Eagles, I'm trying to get that left tackle spot and fill it in. And we have some comments from the comment section. Cosme dropping to the second round. Interesting. I too see him as a bubble, but more on the first round side. And that definitely could happen. I think probably the difference between you and me is I think Radens is the first round guy of those fringe left tackles compared to Cosme. Both definitely offer plenty of upside and plenty of question marks. So we'll see how the teams really value them. I think one surprise tackle that's kind of viewed as a fringe guy is Jalen Mayfield. And I expect him to actually be a lot earlier picked than people expect, probably earlier than some of the more consensus higher guys like Darrisaw or Eichenberg, just because NFL teams seem to value that athletic upside way more than maybe some of the fans at home, including myself. So now we got to talk about these trade details because we got some new picks coming into the Eagles draft plans. They send Carson Wentz and their 6th round pick, number 193, to Chicago for the 52nd, 84th pick, and Nick Foles. Nick Foles comes in. He's supposed to be a solid backup behind Jalen Hurts. If things go wrong with Hurts, Foles obviously has a lot of history in Philadelphia. I think it's fine being able to keep him there, leave him there, and, potentially find success again. With that 2nd and 3rd round pick, I understand that the Eagles have apparently been rumored to really want this 1st round pick and are holding out. How long can you really hold out, though, until it is time to officially make the move? I think the Bears probably have the best offer on the table. Bringing Nick Foles back to Philadelphia will definitely help, A, the locker room that he won with a lot of guys with, and B, help out in terms of getting some fan favorites back and helping this team really gain back the crowd that a lot of people have kind of been hurt by the Eagles, I guess, in a way, just because of how chaotic last season was. And with that next trade that we see, we're sending Zach Ertz and the 7th round pick, not 23, 223, to Seattle for their 4th round pick. I think Ertz didn't play well last year. You already have your starting tight end. You can get some depth in this draft, but I think ultimately you should probably move on from Ertz, move on from Wentz, and find a new pick that you can get and get a new young player for the team. So those are the trades that we have happening for Philadelphia. We got a comment from the comment section. Trading to get Foles back. Absolutely. Bring Foles magic back to Philadelphia and get the backup QB. That is also the star of their Super Bowl run. I think not many people would oppose it. The only issue is making the money work, and I think the Eagles definitely can do that. With the next 2nd round pick, we got him going Greg Newsome II out of Northwestern. I think Newsome is an excellent fit in their new defense with the Indianapolis scheme. We're going to see a lot of similarities between those defenses now. I think Greg Newsome fulfills that ability to both play man, play zone, and definitely drop back when needed. I think he's a smart corner. I think he's an experienced corner at Northwestern, and I think he offers great size and length. The Eagles secondary has been absolutely getting toasted over these past few years. I'm not saying that they need a total rehaul, obviously with this draft only getting one corner, but I do think that they need to bring in some young blood. I like Slay. I think he's going to be able to find success with this new defense. And I think Maddox back in the slot is going to be huge for him and the Eagles defense. So I think getting Newsome at this outside corner spot with their 2nd round pick would be a huge get and allow them to really start building this defense towards the future in a defense that's really kind of aging up there with all these older pieces that are now on the back ends of their career. With their 1st, 3rd round pick, I have them going Jabril Cox, and I think Jabril Cox is an excellent fit. You look at, again, I'm going to keep saying it about this Indianapolis defense, but we see like coverage linebackers like Darius Leonard and Bobby Okereke finding success in Indianapolis. I think Jabril Cox fits that mold, and therefore I think he's a perfect fit for Philadelphia and what they're going to try to do. Obviously, the complaints of Philadelphia's linebacker core cannot be overstated. There are so many issues with this team. There's so many concerns about the linebacker unit. So bringing in a guy like Jabril Cox who offers great coverage ability, great frame, and also, upside to be something special. I think in the 3rd round, that's an absolutely home run pick, one that I'm probably going to be consistently making in any mocks that I do because I think Jabril Cox working in that Indianapolis defense, whether it's with a team like Philadelphia, maybe with the team Indianapolis, or maybe in another defense that offers similar traits from their unit, I think Jabril Cox is a perfect fit for that. And I think the second LSU Tiger that the Eagles draft in this mock is going to be just as much a contributor as the first one. With their next third-round pick, I have them going Rashad Weaver. Obviously, there's questions about Derek Barnett, who's going to be a free agent next year. There's questions about Brandon Graham, who could potentially be a cut candidate this year. I think they try to restructure him because of his contract, but we'll see. And, just overall, guys like Josh Sweat haven't really stepped up to the plate and met expectations. So adding a guy like Rashad Weaver, I think, gives you dependable play on the defensive line, allows you to have great depth there at the defensive end position. And Weaver has really put together some great games over this course of the college season. Working with Pat Jones at Pittsburgh, they were one of the best tandems at the defensive end spot in college football. So looking at Rashad Weaver and what he can do with that third-round pick, I think that's an absolutely great pick. Add some great depth, recreate that Philadelphia defense that was just consistently creating pressure by having fresh energy on the defensive end spot. With the fourth-round pick that they acquired from Seattle, we're taking Tommy Tremble. And, maybe the idea of just Ertz to Tremble, maybe a little bit of a downgrade, but I think the idea that you're getting a great run blocker, great athlete with plenty of potential and receiving upside, I think the Eagles could really benefit from this pick. First off, they had Trey Burton for a long time, and I think that's a very similar prospect in terms of just overall athleticism and skills. And I think if you have Tremble, you're getting a great blocker right away. And the receiving upside that could come from him with already Dallas Goedert being your star tight end, I think is absolutely huge. You need some depth on this team. I understand a lot of people want to just draft starters at every pick, but that's not going to happen. So getting a guy like Tremble who can be your tight end too and potentially pay off and be a great tight end too is something that I think they should definitely look into. Maybe later rounds they go for a guy like Trey McKitty or, maybe Tony Poljan or something like that, where it's other depth guys. But I think at this fourth-round pick, looking at this mock and how I wanted to do it, I really like the Tremble pick, and I think that Philadelphia fans would like it too as long as it actually happens and they get to see it play out. In the fifth round, I have him going Trill Williams, currently a cornerback at the University of Syracuse, working with guys like Melifonwu, Andre Cisco, Garrett Williams, who's an up-and-coming guy for the future years. Trill Williams played slot corner for Syracuse, but I think overall his skill set projects to free safety. There's rumors about his athleticism. I don't really agree with it, but I do think that there's plenty of talent here. He's a nice tackler, long arm safety. I think he's an intelligent player. So you work with him, you offer the positional versatility to play slot, outside corner, safety, and I think this is a nice guy to add into your secondary. Right now, I think Jalen Mills is going to be playing that free safety spot. But again, like we said constantly, adding depth to this team is huge. Trill Williams coming into that safety spot with Jalen Mills, Kevon Wallace, and Trill Williams and other pieces as well. I think you're adding some talent. And, Trill Williams in the fifth, it may be a little bit of a exaggeration of draft value, but I think it's a good pick. And I think that being able to consistently have safety players that you can rely on is huge. I'm not sure what Trill Williams' upside is, but I do think that his intelligence on the field, his positional versatility is worth the fifth-round pick, and I think he has special teams upside as well. With that next fifth-round pick, we're going with Quinn Miners, and if you watch the Senior Bowl, you've definitely heard about this guy from Wisconsin Whitewater, the offensive guard, ability to move in to center. This is an upside pick, and maybe there's been rumors that he's going to go much earlier. I don't see it, so I think this fifth-round pick is realistic. Getting a guy like Miners, putting him on the offensive line, you add depth and you help out this team immensely. At the Senior Bowl, he showed out pretty well. He had a nice week. On tape, there's still definitely a lot of question marks. He has some nice power. He has some nice strength, but overall there's some technique issues. There's still some times where he does get overwhelmed despite having the amount of strength that he does. So really trying to hammer out all those, inconsistencies in his game is going to be huge at the NFL level. And if the Eagles can do that, they're going to get a starter here in the fifth round. We'll see what happens. So in the sixth round, got him going Sam Ehlinger, quarterback out of Texas. You're looking at the team that Howie Roseman called the QB factory. Now, I don't think they're going to go and invest a pick in an early pick this year like they did last year, but I do think that they will continue drafting QBs late, maybe a guy like Davis Mills, maybe a guy like Shane Buechele, maybe a guy like Zach Thomas out of Appalachian State. There's plenty of options, but I like Sam Ehlinger here. I think there's similar athletic upside. I think there's similar, skill sets that would be able to make the transition to Hurts. If Hurts and Foles were to go down, I think Ehlinger would have similar skills to Hurts to where the offense doesn't have to change that much. I don't think Ehlinger is anywhere near as good as Hurts, but I do think that in the 6th round, getting a guy that can be your QB3, and if you need, you're potentially putting him in, offering athletic upside, it's a solid bet. And, there's talks also that Sam Ehlinger could switch positions, and I think that's also a possibility as well. Taking a guy like this, I think you're really getting a Swiss Army knife of possibilities, so we'll see what happens. And Ricklington comments, I don't know how I feel about that. Do you think the Eagles will carry 3 QBs? I think it's definitely a possibility. I mean, we saw Sudfeld last year as their 3rd quarterback, and I think looking at what this team could do at the QB position with a scrambling QB like Hurts, with a QB that's had a little bit of injury history like Foles, having a guy like Ehlinger or having someone else, maybe Sudfeld, back on the roster isn't a bad idea to just try to keep a little bit of opportunity for the team. So that is our draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. Looking at this team, I think there's plenty of potential for a pop-off season. Now, my expectation for them is low just because of all the locker room chaos that I expect. But if Carson Wentz is gone and they fully committed to Jalen Hurts, if Nick Sirianni comes in and reestablishes the culture, gets things smoothed over, then this team still has plenty of potential. And it's all about how these veterans step up and rebound from a season that was obviously a down year for many Eagles fans and for NFL fans alike. So let's take a look at this offense. At QB, we got Jalen Hurts. Obviously, you're going with Jalen Hurts. If we trade Wentz, you're all in on Hurts as your QB. Whether he lasts or not, that's the question of what happens this year. But at this moment, there's no contention, no Nick Foles starting. We're going Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is stepping in as the quarterback. Running back, Miles Sanders, keep it consistent. Wide receiver room, we got Jalen Reagor, Jamar Chase, and Travis Fulgham. Definitely a great unit. I think there's plenty of possibilities with the squad. And, looking at these weapons, I think there's plenty of reason for optimism. Reagor had some nice moments, especially with Hurts at QB in this past season. Fulgham had some games where he popped off. I think he deserves a chance to be that 3rd receiver. And Jamar Chase was one of the best wide receivers in college football in 2019, obviously opted out for 2020, but there's still plenty of reason to be optimistic about what he can do, especially in year 1. I love Jamar Chase. I love Jalen Reagor. I love Travis Fulgham. And then especially I love Dallas Goedert at tight end. You have a great weapons room, plenty of upside in this offense. And the offensive line, if healthy, is still one of the top units. Cosme at left tackle, Suamalo at left guard, Kelsey at center if he returns, Brandon Brooks at right guard, and Lane Johnson at right tackle. Looking at this unit, there's definitely a consistent play. It's just the consistency issue has to do with health. So if these guys can stay healthy, the offense is definitely very much able to compete. One question from the comment section. My only guess as to the Philadelphia Eagles draft is that no matter who they pick, the majority of Eagles fans will hate it. So not really a question, my bad. So just a comment from the comment section. But yeah, absolutely, I'm sure the Eagles will boo it. Maybe that's a good luck charm, though. We saw it with McNabb. They booed the pick, and it worked out really well. There's plenty of talent on this team. So at number 6, hopefully the fans keep an open mind because there's plenty of talent at the top of this draft. But we could see them surprise people with a crazy pick, and then the fans are just ready to boo it all around. So let's look at the Eagles' defense and what they have to offer. At defensive tackle, Fletcher Cox, Malik Jackson, Javon Hargrave. Obviously, plenty of talent at that position. They did a nice job of rotating those guys last year. Fletcher Cox bounced back in the second half of the year to really prove out that he is still one of the best in football. At the defensive end spot, we're going to go with Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham. Obviously, we drafted a guy like Rashad Weaver. There's Josh Sweat as a backup, but there's still plenty of upside in having Barnett and Graham. I think these guys are still your go-to starters. Brandon Graham, huge question mark for this offseason is, are they going to be able to keep him around? I think if you restructure his contract, you work with him to really try to push some of the cap hit off to the other years, it's definitely possible. I think there's some low-end years on this contract right now that makes for a reason why you can bring Graham back and still have money on the books to build around this team. There's not going to be a lot of free agent moves. And I think that's important to really establish is that there's not going to be a lot of signings. There's not going to be a lot of huge splash moves in terms of acquisitions this offseason. It's mostly going to be dependent on the draft. At the linebacker spot, we're going with TJ Edwards, Alex Singleton, and Jabril Cox. We talked about Cox earlier in the draft, but we're talking about Edwards and Singleton here. Singleton had a very nice season. I think it was underrated in some terms. With Edwards, I think you're looking at a guy that's just kind of filling in at the spot. Hopefully, Davion Taylor can kind of step up to the plate and really fulfill the draft need that they drafted him for. There's plenty of guys that they have that could potentially pan out, but right now, TJ Edwards seems to be the most consistent player in that regard. Even TJ Edwards himself is still a bit young. So I think we have them move on from Duke Riley. And this position at the linebacker spot is mostly between TJ Edwards, Sean Bradley, and Davion Taylor. And whoever can step up and take that spot really earns it. And I think there's plenty of potential for all three to find success. I really like Sean Bradley as a prospect. He was one of my sleepers heading into that class, and I think he's had a nice first year. If he can continue improving and have a great year in terms of camp and offseason, he could potentially be a nice linebacker to add to this core, and you got plenty of talent there. At the cornerback spots, we talked about it earlier. Darius Slay should benefit from being in a better schematic defense for his skill set. Greg Newsome, I think, is much the same. He's going to have a strong rookie year if he's in a system like this. And then Avonte Maddox heading back to this slot cornerback position. They've been playing him all around the secondary. He's had his issues, but Avonte Maddox has shined when he's playing in the slot, and I think it's important to keep him there, get some consistency in this defense, and really take advantage of that. Maddox is a dog, and I think there's plenty of potential here. He had a strong rookie year. It's been inconsistent play ever since. Get him in the slot. If he doesn't pan out, that's all right. You have to look at slot next year. But right now, I think you got to give a guy like Maddox your chance to play that slot cornerback position. And then we have a question as well. Will Darius Slay improve his play this year? We'll bring in a Newsome, light a fire under his tuchus, and get him back to prime Slay. I don't think we're going to get prime Slay back, but I think it's going to be similar to what we saw in Indianapolis, where Xavier Rhodes really had a nice bounce back season. And I think Slay and Newsome are going to compete together, so I don't know if it's really a light a fire under his butt type deal, but I do think that there's plenty of reason to still think Slay could have a nice year. And with a zone heavier scheme, allowing for the maybe less athletic Slay to still use his cornerback skills and instincts, you can still see some nice production out of him. At the free safety spot, we're going with Jalen Mills and Kevon Wallace at the strong safety spot. These two safeties have plenty of upside. I really love Wallace. He was one of my favorite prospects in this past class. I think there's plenty of potential here for him to really solidify himself as a strong safety. He can drop down into nickel if you need. He can play free safety potentially as well. But Jalen Mills takes that free safety spot. Kevon Wallace takes the strong safety spot. And I think the Eagles, while there's still plenty of question marks about this team, this is their blueprint for the offseason to really get themselves back on the right foot. The biggest thing, though, like we talked about at the very beginning, is reestablishing the culture in this locker room, getting rid of all the chaos that has kind of existed from this past season, and really remeshing this team that has fallen off from grace from their past Super Bowl championship. And I would like to welcome in co-host Bailey Kumar. How's it going, Bailey? And what do you think of the Eagles' chances following this offseason?
The NFC East has been, was kind of weak this year. And I definitely think with this roster, they have a chance of making the playoffs again. When you rebuild and you allow Jalen Hurts to take over the locker room and you allow there to be a clear leader, I think the team's going to rally around that, and I think that if Nick turns out to be a pretty good coach, that he can lead them to a playoff appearance.
We got a comment from the comment section from Ricklington, NFC least, and that's definitely appropriate. Washington's a talented squad. Giants had their moments. Dallas obviously battling injuries with Dak Prescott out for the year and many of the offensive line being injured as well. But there's plenty of potential for all four of these teams to really bounce back after a year that was probably disappointing, even for a team like Washington that made playoffs, to really reestablish themselves in terms of roster talent, in terms of NFC contention, and getting into the mix as a legit playoff team. And the Eagles are very much in play as well. We are now going to move on to the Detroit Lions. So Bailey, talk to me. The Detroit Lions obviously made a splash of the offseason with trading Matt Stafford. Plenty of question marks now surrounding what they do. I think they stick with Goff. I think you have a similar stance on that. But they do have that 7th pick. So whether they're bringing in a big-time contributor, bringing in a new quarterback, or bringing in a guy maybe that's a little underrated in terms of contribution because it's on the offensive line or somewhere else, they have a lot of options. So what do you think the Lions' plan is in their first year post-Stafford, post-Patricia, in terms of finding success in Detroit?
Well, the Lions just have so many holes on the roster. I just think they have to go with the best player available that they have. They don't really have an option to reach for need. With the roster they have, there's just no talent there. The division they're in is incredibly tough. With the Packers and the Vikings and the Bears all, potential playoff teams. So you're in for kind of a longer rebuild than maybe compared to the Eagles. So I think you just got to take whoever's highest on your board with the 7th pick, and mostly with all your other picks too.
Absolutely. And we're going to dive right into it, taking a look at this Detroit Lions draft. Let's talk about the important business. A little trade for you. Trading Jelani Tavai to New England for their 6th round pick, number 189. Tavai was rumored to be high on Bill Belichick's board. Even though he struggled in his time, I do think Bill would still be interested in bringing him in. So you get rid of Tavai, someone who has not worked out well for the Lions. And with that first pick, you kind of replace him right away. Micah Parsons, linebacker out of Penn State, plenty of upside. He can move around all over the front 7, whether you need him to play defensive end, outside linebacker, inside linebacker, Mike linebacker, Sam linebacker, Will linebacker. He can do it all. If you need him, you could probably have him at nose tackle and you'd find success. So bringing in a guy like Micah Parsons, a key piece in terms of establishing young talent on this defense, getting a young, hopefully defensive leader for Dan Campbell at the linebacker position, and also, bringing in just arguably the best player on the board at number 7. Bailey, I know you love Parsons. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you think he can bring to the Lions and to Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn's defense?
Well, the Lions have been lacking a true star linebacker for forever. They've tried many times, none of them have really worked out with Gerard Davis or Tavai. So, getting Parsons, who I think is as close to a can't-miss prospect as you can get, to be just a reliable piece on that defense that is going to be solid, kind of like Okudah last year, these are just pieces you can build around on your defense that will contribute. And the Lions need that right now. They've missed on too many draft picks over the past years to take somebody risky. So I really like this Parsons pick for them. I think he's going to be a leader on that defense, and I think he'll have a lot of success with them.
So I want to talk about Okudah because there's definitely been some question marks about his rookie season. He definitely had his struggles. A new defense should help his struggles kind of hopefully be overcome, but at the same time, there's still some question marks for a lot of fans that are now willing to already label him a bust. Definitely early to label him such, but I do think that maybe he didn't meet expectations in that first year, especially for you and me who rated him pretty highly. Do you think Okudah in Aaron Glenn's system, coming from the Saints, will find more success, and how do you think the Lions maximize what Okudah can do?
Aaron Glenn was a former defensive back coach for the Saints. I think that he comes with a lot of experience, and I think that's part of the hire, honestly, is to unlock the full potential of Okudah. It's definitely way too soon to give up on him. there's not a lot of really good rookie CBs this year. A lot of them took a while to adjust to the league. So I really think that he's going to be fine. Just be patient. Let him learn the position. And he's a Pro Bowl player. He's an all-pro player. He's definitely going to get there. I'm pretty confident in his abilities.
All right, we're going to keep moving on with this draft. We got the second-round pick, Rondale Moore, wide receiver. I do think the Lions will be keeping one of their wide receiver weapons. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But getting Rondale Moore in the second round, I think, is a huge steal. I think he's a first-round talent. I know that there's, question marks about what he's going to be able to do at the next level because a lot of it was, jet sweeps, small dump offs, stuff like that. But that play still very much finds success in the NFL. Rondale Moore is a absolute playmaker, still very much an athlete. The only question I have about him is just the overall frame, and I still think that's fine. So getting a guy like Rondale Moore in the second, you really open up your offense for plenty of playmaking ability. With Jared Goff, you're going to want weapons when you can get them. I think Quintez Cephas returns as well. Obviously going to be very strong. TJ Hawkinson is one of the best young up-and-coming tight ends. Adding Rondale Moore to this weapons room, I think, is huge and could be a huge home run pick in the second round. Bailey, I know you like Rondale Moore. What are your thoughts on him and this pick and fit with the Lions?
Yeah, like you said, the biggest concern right now with Moore is his frame and his durability. He's kind of smaller for a wide receiver, but we've seen guys like him have success in the league, and I think if you put that aside, that he can be a focal point on offense. You can kind of build an offense around him, like a Tyreek Hill. So I really like this pick. Give Goff a weapon, and you need inject some youth into that wide receiver group. It's kind of old right now, and I don't know what you have plans for Golladay right now, but he probably doesn't have that long of a future with the team, so you definitely need to get a stud there, and I really like the pick.
We got some comments from the comment section. Samantha said Micah is a good pick with a smiling monkey emoji. We agree. That's why we had him picked. I think he's definitely one of the best players on the board, fits a need, and really fulfills the opportunity to get a future star for this defense. And then we have another comment from Ricklington. Micah Parsons back in the top 10 for the Rock. Yeah, I think Parsons could really fall. It's just going to come down to what the NFL knows. There's plenty of question marks for us because we don't know it all. And hopefully we'll get some more clarity on the situation and figure out what his true draft stock is. But I think in terms of pure talent, he's definitely worthy of a top 10 pick. So we're going to move on to this third round where the Lions pick twice. I got him going Elijah Molden at cornerback. There's plenty of slot corners in this class, but Molden is one that I think stands out. Physical, very nice in the slot, moves his hips well, sticks with his guys. He's very sticky at the slot corner spot, will not let these guys out of a pocket reach. And I think that's huge for the Lions because obviously Justin Coleman, probably too expensive, probably going to have to be cut, was up and down in play all season. So if you bring in Elijah Molden in the third round, you're getting a starting nickel corner. You bring this room back to what you are really hoping for with Okudah, Trufant, and Molden at the cornerback positions. I think you have plenty of talent in that opportunity of success with a great defensive secondary. Aaron Glenn has found success with young corners, especially in New Orleans. He proved that. So a guy like Molden, I think, would be a great pick and really allow for the Detroit Lions to get some established young talent on the defense. And with that next third-round pick, I got him going Jalen Twyman out of Pittsburgh. There's a new scheme coming to New Orleans, most likely. We're going to see a lot of more 4-3 looks. And I think Twyman, as an interior defensive lineman, could add some presence there. Right now, guys like Shelton, Penasini, and other members of this defensive line really haven't been able to succeed in the 3-4. They've been fine, but in that 4-3, things are going to change. I think Penasini stays, but I think Shelton could be moved off, whether it's cut or trade. And I think we need to see some, 4-3, 5-tech, 3-tech defensive tackles that step in. I think Twyman is a great pick in the third round to fulfill that need. So, Bailey, we're talking about this 2 third-round picks. What do you think of them, and what are your thoughts for the direction the Lions need to go with them?
So with Elijah Molden, if you are cutting Justin Coleman, there is a huge hole at slot corner, and I do think they do, as you said, because it's pretty clear that the NFL just doesn't value slot cornerbacks anymore. So when you bring in Elijah Molden and you allow him to enter that cornerback group with, you got Akuda, who's younger too, and then you got the veteran Desmond Trufant, and you got the defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. I think that's the perfect environment for him to develop as a prospect and for him to be effective. I think that this is a slam dunk pick. I think he's going to have a lot of success in the league. And then when you go to Jalen Twyman, your first 3 picks have been, kind of not like safe prospects, but prospects that are going to contribute. And this is more of a home run pick, in my opinion. There's a lot of concerns with Twyman at the interior D line. His size, his run stopping ability, but if you can truly develop him and get his pass rush down, he's going to be one of the most deadly interior defensive linemen in the league. So I really like this pick if you're confident in your developmental coaches.
Absolutely. And that boomer bust ability is something that you really want to try to take swings at. When you're a team like Detroit, I think there's enough depth on the defense to where if he struggles, he can step in as that backup defensive tackle, but he doesn't necessarily have to be your star. I think when you're trying to draft, ideally those first 2 rounds is when you're getting a starter and the rest are depth. If you need to start a 3rd rounder or a 4th rounder, 5th rounder guy comes up with a good camp and steps in a starting spot, that's fine too. But if you're depending on these picks to be starters, then that probably indicates some issues in your own roster. So a guy like Twyman, I don't expect him to come in and start right away. I think you go to free agency, you get someone that can really fulfill the spot, and you hopefully develop Twyman. So we'll take a look at who we have filling in at that defensive tackle position. But like Bailey said, Twyman offers plenty of upside that could potentially be a boom or bust pick. I think there's still enough talent there, though, to where maybe it's plenty of upside, but still not as bad of a floor to where he could be a nice depth defensive lineman at your 3rd round pick. With that 4th round pick, talking about boomer bust, Frank Darby out of Arizona State, I think there's plenty of potential here. Even with the pick of Rondale Moore, even with guys like Quintez Cephas, and hopefully bringing back one of Kenny Golladay or Marvin Jones, you still need some weapons in this receiver room. And I think Frank Darby is how you do that. You add a nice weapon at the wide receiver spot. He struggled in terms of production in this past season, and a lot of people maybe had Darby drop on their radar. But I think he is very much still very talented, a great receiver, nice size, nice frame, nice ability to separate, strong hands at the catch point. Darby offers plenty of upside to where in this 4th round, where you may be able to, kind of swing for the fences, I think Darby's a great pick. With that 5th round pick, I have him going Larry Borom, offensive lineman out of Missouri. There's plenty of versatility for him, and I think that's what I like most about him. If you need him to step in at tackle, I think he's very capable. If you need him to play guard, I think he's capable. And I think the frame is absolutely something that we got to talk about. 330 pounds. I think he stands 6'5", offers plenty of size and strength as an offensive lineman with such a skill set and raw talent that I think he could be someone that rises up boards the more the offseason goes on. Right now, though, talked about as a 5th round pick, and I think with his abilities, you're getting a nice depth offensive lineman that could potentially find success in the NFL and maybe slide into that starting lineup with some time. And with the 6th round pick, a guy that I've just recently started watching, Zech McPhearson out of Texas Tech, a big hitter with some great coverage grades. PFF is the reason that I checked this guy out. He has plenty of great coverage grades over his past play. And, this guy has definitely been dependable. Whether it's in the zone or man coverage, he's played smart, played well. He's got great size, great frame, and like I said, he's a big hitter. So at the very least, you're getting a nice special teams gunner, in my opinion, with what he can do. And I think in that 6th round, whether you're taking a special teamer or a guy that has upside to be depth, is huge. And I think McPherson offers both those things, checks off both those marks in the book, and it allows you to make this pick where you're not only getting a solid special teams player, but you're also getting a guy that could potentially be a great corner for your team. So, Bailey, we're talking about this draft. Obviously, the Lions, maybe not a contender in year one of the Dan Campbell era, but this draft can do a lot for them in terms of establishing success in the Campbell era. So, what are your thoughts on this draft, and maybe any disagreements with the way I went about things, and maybe what you'd change up?
So obviously the double dipping at the two positions I don't really fully agree with, because the Lions, as I said before, and kind of the primer, have a lot of holes on their team, on their defense, on their offense. And when you take two double dip at these positions, especially when you're missing your 7th-round pick, it's just I think it's a luxury that the Lions can't really afford. I think they need to get young players at a lot more positions. They need, you know, you need to, you only need edge rushers. They need O-line. Well, they don't need running back. They have enough of those. But maybe a backup QB, maybe another tight end. There's just so many positions on the roster that I feel are a weakness that I would be shocked if they double dipped at wide receiver and cornerback, two positions.
I think that's fair. And now we're going to dive into the starting lineup for the Lions. We're going to look at the offense first. We got Jared Goff at QB, DeAndre Swift at running back, who hopefully will be in for a big year, showed off some great talent. The biggest thing is trying to get that offense and offensive line going with some momentum. At the wide receiver room, we have him tagging Kenny Golladay, bringing him back, hopefully establishing himself in that offense and getting a long-term deal worked out. But at the very least, I think you bring back Kenny Golladay to at least help out Jared Goff. You have Rondale Moore and Quintez Cephas in this receiving room, TJ Hawkinson at the tight end spot, Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow, Halavaitai at right guard, and Tyrell Crosby at right tackle. There's plenty to like about this offense. Again, like the Eagles, a lot of it is going to be how they keep healthy. But Crosby stepped in at right tackle and did pretty well last year. The offensive line has plenty of upside. I think it's a solid group, especially with Jonah Jackson and Frank Ragnow healthy. There's a lot to do in terms of production, getting Kenny Golladay healthy, having Quintez Cephas take that next step, making DeAndre Swift into a franchise back, having Kerryon Johnson produce as a backup running back, getting TJ Hawkinson to take that next step, getting Jared Goff to prove himself as a QB. There's plenty of question marks surrounding this offensive weapons room. But if they can keep healthy, get the production they need, get the progress they need from their players, this team could be sneakily very good. And in that year one of Dan Campbell, having this offense that is able to produce already would be absolutely huge.
Yeah, I agree. This, on paper, is a very solid offensive group. They didn't show a lot of success last year with kind of a similar group, but hopefully with a new coach, a new culture, a new scheme, that it will work out and they can, be a competitive team in their division.
And now we got to look at the defensive side of things for the Detroit Lions. We're having them spend a little bit of money, and hopefully it pays off in a big way. We got them going Shelby Harris at the defensive tackle spot. We talked about it a little bit before, getting a defensive tackle guy that can both A, fit in the 4-3 defense that will probably be ran a lot more, and B, get some guy that can provide some pressure on the inside. I love Trey Flowers. I love Romeo Okwara, but both these guys aren't going to be anyone that's going to lead the league in stats or in sacks. They're probably going to put up, 6 to 10 as their, better play, but mostly they're going to create a presence on the edge in terms of run stuffing and really just slowing down and containing QBs. So getting some pressure on the inside, I think, is absolutely huge. And Shelby Harris put together a really nice season for the Denver Broncos. So this defensive line with Shelby Harris, John Pennicini, Trey Flowers, and Romeo Okwara with depth options like Julian Okwara, I think is absolutely a great get. And, again, with Jalen Twyman as that backup defensive tackle, Deshaun Hand even being able to rotate between defensive end and defensive tackle, there's definitely a lot of depth on this defensive line to hopefully be able to find some success in this new defense.
Yeah, their defensive line definitely wasn't their issue last year. Bringing in Shelby Harris should inject a lot of life into it, though, make it one of the better units in the league if Trey Flowers and Aquara can, keep up the production from last year.
And we got some comments from the comment section. Nick 122500 says, "Oh wow, MLB Rules is back. I remember this guy. MLB Rules is the alias of Bailey Kumar, so a lot of fans out there for him." We got Darby has good foot quickness, so good choice. Obviously, some people really like the Frank Darby pick that we had in the 4th round. Can the Lions ruin TJ so the Pats can pick him up soon? I think Hawkinson has already shown enough to where the Lions are going to hold on to him. And if he does hit the market, I don't think the Patriots are going to be able to pay the price better than some other teams. Got some Gesicki love. Still hope it happens. So we're going to go on to the linebacker room for the Lions. Jamie Collins, I understand there's some question marks. There's some doubts about him because, outside of this Patriots defense, we aren't sure how he's going to do. I don't think it's the case. I think if you trade him, I understand, maybe you want to try to get as much draft capital as you can, send him to a team like the Patriots or like the Giants, who knows. But I think you hold on to him. You get some established talent in this defense. Jamie Collins obviously offers plenty of versatility and ability. So you keep Jamie Collins. Dan Campbell has been very adamant that he likes Jarrad Davis, that he thinks there's plenty of potential there. So you let Jarrad Davis get one more year, and then you bring in Micah Parsons with that 1st-round pick. And I think your linebacker room, while there's still question marks, obviously, Jarrad Davis has to take a huge step to really establish himself as a full-time starter for the Lions. I think there's plenty of potential here to where if Collins, Parsons are playing well and Davis takes that next step, this front 7 could be a very good unit. Looking at the cornerback group, Jeffrey Okudah, Desmond Trufant, Elijah Molden. There's not a lot of change here. The biggest thing is just trying to get those next steps. Trufant played pretty well last year. Solid cornerback, too. You need Okudah to be that cornerback 1 that he can be. It's just about getting that development and getting him to take that next step. I love Okudah. I loved him as a prospect. Obviously, some issues in that first year, but I think working with Aaron Glenn, being able to develop in a system that allows him to play to his strengths, we could see Okudah in for a huge year and hopefully taking that next step and really helping out this Lions secondary. And to finish out the secondary, Tracy Walker back to strong safety I think is absolutely huge, but the gamble signing is Malik Hooker, free safety out of Indianapolis. Great prospect, had his career kind of sidelined due to injuries, eventually got healthy, but the Colts found talent elsewhere at the free safety spot, so now Hooker hits the market. I think if you're the Lions, being able to take a little gamble right now in that first year, seeing what you can get out of these bargain buys in Shelby Harris and Malik Hooker is how you try to win, because no one's going to fire Campbell in year 1, even if Goff struggles and the defense has its issues still. So I think as long as you can establish a culture, make small bargain buys, see what you can get out of maybe high upside, boom or bust free agents, and then in that second year, establishing, okay, who's going to stick around, who is going to have to be moved on from, and where are we going to get better? I think adding guys like Harris and especially Malik Hooker is huge for their chance to really hit on value deals.
Yeah, I mean, I can also kind of a signing I like for the Lions too is bringing in Marcus Williams from the Saints, who's a free agent. I don't think the Saints can afford to re-sign. Bringing in a guy from the very successful defense from over there, a guy who's worked with Aaron Glenn before and developed under him would be a really good get, but he might be out of their price range. So Malik Hooker is a good, as you said, kind of a lower tier guy for them to get. But overall, this defense looks incredibly solid. There's not a lot of holes on it. You could say that Jarrad Davis is kind of weak as a linebacker 3, and that Tracy Walker isn't that great. But overall, as a unit, this should be pretty strong. It shouldn't be a bottom tier unit like it kind of has been in years past.
The big question marks for this Lions team is going to come down to how Jared Goff plays outside of McVay's system, how the offensive line does in terms of staying healthy, and how the Lions front 7 and overall defense just kind of progresses. And while there's definitely question marks, there's reasons for doubt if you're a Lions fan. I think there's also just as many reasons for optimism in this first year of Dan Campbell's tenure as a coach. And I think if they can get a nice amount of production out of Jared Goff, DeAndre Swift, get some nice production and growth out of Jeffrey Okudah, guys like that on this defense, you could see a very strong first year where the Lions are going 6-10, 7-9, and then in that next year looking at playoffs as a legit team.
Yeah, the biggest thing will be their interdivisional record because their division is just so tough. You have 3 incredibly strong teams with the Packers, Bears, and Vikings. So unfortunately, even though after all these changes, I still don't see them climbing out of 4th place. But if they can remain competitive and steal a couple wins, I definitely believe they can be a playoff team in 2-3 years.
We got some comments from the comment section. We are going to find out if Goff can actually read a defense in the heat of the moment and not having McVay calling it into him. I think Goff will be fine, and they will go 9-7 next year. So definitely some optimism from Ricklington, but I think there is reason for it. You know, if Goff can be that QB that we saw under McVay in this new system, this offense could get going early. And if this defense can make their strides, then the Lions could be very good. I think there's definitely going to be some growing pains. So I don't have as much optimism as you, Ricklington, but I do think that there could be some very, surprise games where the Lions are very competitive all year. Maybe steal a surprise win off the Packers or Vikings where maybe they were kind of counted out and then they come back and swing in real hard. Another comment from Reagan Smash. I think Goff will be bad and they will go 9-7 next year. And, there's definitely some QB talent in next year's class. If they do decide to move on from Goff, there's guys like Howell, guys like Spencer Rattler, and there will be plenty of risers that we'll have to talk about as the season goes on. But the Detroit Lions have plenty of reason to be hopeful in this first offseason under Dan Campbell and be hopeful that a lot of the homegrown guys like Okudah, like Davis, can take that next step and really fulfill themselves as prospects. That is all we have for you on today's show. Thank you guys so much in the comment section for everything you guys have brought today. Thank you to Bailey for joining me on the show. Needed some of the help to carry some of the conversation. And thank you to LandryFootball.com for the platform and opportunity to talk about football twice a week and have people, willing to listen, even though I'm just rambling on about nothing. Destination Draft Day. It's a long road, but we'll get you there. We're under 75 days till the NFL draft. We're getting closer and closer by the minute. We got plenty of draft content coming for you, whether it's pro football, college football, or NFL draft talk. Destination Draft Day's got you covered. We'll see you on Friday. Take care.